Hi, today we're going to be discussing Henry VIII and his wives. First of all, Henry VIII's family. His family was known as the Tudors. The Tudors were a royal family who ruled England from 1485 until 1603. The first Tudor king was called Henry VII. He fought another king, Richard III, at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485. In this battle, Richard was killed and Henry became king, and thus a new period in English history begins. This is a family tree of the Tudors here. It shows when people were born, when they died, who they married, and how many children you had. Up here you have Henry VII, and then primarily the subject of today's presentation, which is Henry VIII here. And you'll see here the three wives that he had that gave him children, and the other three are not on here. This is a picture of Henry VIII later in his life. As a young man, he was known as an athletic and fit sportsman. And this is much later in his life, once he's probably into his 50s here. Henry VIII was king of England from 1509 until 1547. Okay? He was born in 1491 and was only 17 years old and 10 months when he became king. So he was a relatively young man. One of his hobbies was composing music. Again, looking at that picture here, you can see the idea. He was considered a very vain man. He wanted to portray himself as strong, as commanding, and as a ladies' man. Henry and his wives. In England, the crown is passed from the parent to the child when the parent dies. Henry was desperate to have a son to pass his crown on to. In order to have children, Henry had to find himself a wife. But he married not once, but twice. He married 6 times in an attempt to have a healthy male heir to pass his crown on to. Some of these wives died, some he divorced, and some he had killed, and only one survived him. Let's have a look at who these wives are with more detail. His wife number 1, Catherine of Aragon. Okay. He marries her in 1509. She was a Spanish princess. She gave him one daughter, Mary, who later goes on to become Queen of England. He ends up divorcing her in an attempt to get a male heir. That's Mary. That's Catherine of Aragon. Wife number 2, Anne Boleyn. He falls in love for the young Anne Boleyn, and they're married in 1533 in secret because he had technically not gotten a divorce from his first wife at the time. Again, they have a daughter, Elizabeth here, who would later go on to become Queen of England. He has Anne beheaded because she cannot give him a male heir. Wife number 3, Jane Seymour. After getting rid of Anne, Henry married Jane Seymour in 1536. Jane finally gives him the son he wants, Edward. Unfortunately, Edward died before he could take the throne at age 16. Jane died after giving birth to Edward, so she never really got to see her son here grow into a young man. Wife number 4, Anne of Cleves. After Jane dies, Henry sent a painter, Holbein, to Germany in 1540 to paint a picture of his prospective wife, Anne of Cleves. He thought she looked very beautiful in the picture, but when he saw her, he did not have such an interest in her. She was not as pretty as he had seen in the picture. He thought she was very ugly and called her the Flanders mare. He spent very little time with her, almost no communication with her. They actually lived separately. They had no children, and he divorced her quickly. Wife number 5, Catherine Howard. She marries Henry in 1540. They have no children, mainly because she didn't like Henry, and this is one of the few reasons where, one of the few events where he was probably justified in his accusations of unfaithfulness. She was rumored to have many boyfriends. Henry wasn't very happy about this and has her sentenced to death, and she is beheaded in the year 1542. His final wife, Catherine Parr. He marries her in 1543. Was supposedly a very nice woman. He was very happy with her. They had no children, but she stayed married to him, and he seemed to be in his older age happy with her. He dies in the year 1547, and she continues on for one more year until she passes away. Ultimately, the legacy of Henry VIII is he has 2 daughters who will fight over the crown, and both of them have reputations of being very fearless, if not aggressive leaders, and they seem to turn out to be better leaders than possibly his son would have been. I hope this has been a help for you, and please check out our other videos on C2. Thank you.